Right now, 32 massive tunnel boring machines are cutting through the ground beneath Paris. Each one is over 100 meters long and named after women. And together, they're building something Paris has never built before, a second metro system under the first one. But here's what makes this insane. Paris already has one of the densest metro networks on Earth. It's 126 years old, 16 lines with 307 active stations. For most cities, this would be enough. So why is Paris starting over underground? Because the city it was built for doesn't exist anymore. Today, almost 3 million people live outside Paris and commute every day, and the average trip takes 68 minutes solely because almost every trip is forced through the center. Suburb to suburb still means suburb to center, center back to suburb. The system isn't broken, it's wired for the wrong shape of city. That's why France started the Grand Paris Express, 200 kilometers of new automated lines with 68 new stations costing €36 billion. But how do you rewire an entire city without shutting it down? To understand why this project exists, you have to look at the fatal flaw of Paris. The city's rail system was designed like a bicycle wheel. Every major line runs straight into the center. That made perfect sense in 1900 when almost everything worth reaching was in the middle of the city. But Paris doesn't work like that anymore. Today, jobs, airports and affordable housing are scattered all across the suburbs. The city has expanded, but the map hasn't. Think of it this way. Imagine living in Brooklyn and wanting to visit a friend in Queens, but there's no direct route. You're forced to ride into Manhattan, push through Times Square at rush hour, then ride all the way back out again, even though your destination was never there. That is daily life for millions around Paris. You're always dragged through the center. You get trapped in Châtelet Station or squeezed onto Line 13, a route so packed that locals call it the Hell Line. This is why the average suburban commute is 68 minutes. And there's something darker underneath all this. In 2005, riots broke out in Seine-Saint-Denis, the northeastern suburbs. Young people trapped in neighborhoods with no economic access, no way to reach the jobs and opportunities in the rest of the region. Transit isn't just about convenience. It decides who can reach the city and who grows up outside it. The Paris Metro isn't overcrowded. It's wired for a city that no longer exists. So they are rewiring the entire region. The Grand Paris Express is essentially a buried ring road for trains. Instead of adding more spokes to the old radial system, engineers are building the rim of the wheel. This isn't just an extension, it's a second geometry. We're talking about 4 entirely new lines plus massive extensions to the existing Line 14. Line 15 is the backbone, a 75-kilometer loop wrapping around the entire city. When it's complete, it'll be the longest underground rapid transit tunnel in the world dedicated to passenger service. Phased openings will start in April 2027, with full completion by 2031. Branching off from that ring is Line 16, which serves a social purpose. It shoots northeast directly into Seine-Saint-Denis, the same isolated neighborhoods that erupted in 2005, finally giving 200,000 daily riders a way out. Line 17 is the economic artery, connecting the suburbs directly to Charles de Gaulle Airport, so travelers never have to drag luggage through central Paris again. But if you look south, things get a little strange with Line 18. It connects Orly Airport to the tech hub at Saclay, but here's the twist. It leaves the ground. For 13 kilometers, sleek automated trains will glide on elevated viaducts across open fields. And then there's Line 14, already operational since the 2024 Olympics. Running north-south from Saint-Denis to Orly, it can carry 1 million passengers daily. Looking at it now, it's clear. The Grand Paris Express isn't just a supplement to the old metro, it's a second geometry, a completely new logic for how a city should move. So how does this actually work? Let's break it down. The old Paris Metro has 14 lines radiating from a single center. Every suburb-to-suburb trip funnels through that one heart. The new system flips that logic with circular lines connecting multiple centers. Paris stops being a city with one heart and becomes a network of many, all beating together. And because these trains are fully automated, they can run every 2 to 4 minutes. something humans can't do. No waiting for operators, no safety delays holding things back. Higher frequency equals higher capacity without needing bigger trains. The trains themselves aren't that fast. Average speed is 55 to 65 kilometers per hour with the top speed of 110. But speed isn't the point. Predictability is. A train every 2 to 4 minutes means you don't check a schedule, you just show up. And here's the other shift. Stations aren't placed where old infrastructure happens to be. They're placed where people actually live and work. La Défense Business District, both airports, the research cluster on Plateau de Saclay, the disadvantaged neighborhoods in Seine-Saint-Denis, places that need connection, not places that are easy to connect. But building it, that's where the real story begins. Excavating 200 kilometers of tunnels beneath one of the oldest cities on Earth is not a simple task. You're not digging through empty space. You are tunneling underneath a city that has been built and rebuilt for 2,000 years. The geology alone is a nightmare. Layers of sand, clay, limestone, and gravel all jumbled together. And then there's what humans left behind. Medieval quarries, Roman foundations 20 meters down, 126 years of metro tunnels, water mains, sewers, gas lines, power cables, phone networks. It's a three-dimensional obstacle course between 20 and 48 meters underground. One wrong move, and you could break into a live subway tunnel or collapse a city block above. That's where the tunnel boring machines come in. 32 tunnel boring machines, each over 100 meters long, cutting diameters from 7.7 to 9.86 meters. And here's an innovation most people will never see. Those concrete segments use fiber-reinforced concrete instead of traditional steel rebar. That cuts steel usage by 50% and saves 10,000 tons of CO2 for every 10 kilometers of tunnel. But digging 200 kilometers of tunnel creates 49 million tons of waste, which makes up to the weight of 350 Eiffel Towers. You can't just truck that through Paris streets. Some of it will be shipped by barge or train, while 70% of it gets turned into something useful. The city is being rebuilt out of the earth removed to connect it. Some stations push engineering to the extreme. The newly opened Villejuif station has 2 lines stacked 50 meters underground. To get the drilling machine Allison across a 15-story deep pit, engineers built a temporary bridge mid-air, tiptoeing next to a cancer hospital without shaking the ground. But honestly, digging the holes was the easy part. The real nightmare was everything else. The original plan was to get the whole system running by the 2024 Olympics. In reality, only Line 14 met that deadline. Everything else is now scattered between 2026 and 2031, and for several reasons. First, COVID shut the world down. Supply chains collapsed, workers were sent home, and schedules blew up. Then, disaster struck Line 14. Water flooded the tunnel during construction, stopping work for a full year. That section was 5 years late. And the ground keeps fighting back. One minute you're drilling through hard rock, the next it is soft mud. Each machine has to adapt instantly while digging under active rivers and highways. But the biggest headache isn't geology, it's coordination. This isn't just one big project. It's dozens of different construction sites running at the same time, managed by different companies and different city governments. It's a logistical house of cards. If one site slips, everyone slips. And then there's money. We're talking 36 billion euro. Politicians work in 4-year terms, but tunnels take a decade. Convincing people to live through years of noise, dust, and disruption for a payoff they won't see for 10 years? That is perhaps the hardest part of all. But when it does work, the change will be massive. Right now, people in the suburbs spend 68 minutes commuting every day. The Grand Paris Express is designed to cut that in half for most trips. Take Saint-Denis to Noisy-Champs. Today, that's over 90 minutes with multiple transfers and packed trains. When Line 15 opens, it'll be about 30 minutes. Direct. No transfers. That's an extra hour of your life every day. An hour with your kids, an hour to sleep, an hour that's just yours. Then there's Clichy-Montfermeil. Riots erupted here in 2005 because neighborhoods were isolated. Line 16 changes that. Residents will suddenly have access to 11 times more jobs within 45 minutes. Not a 10% improvement, a completely new life. 42 of the 68 news stations are near officially disadvantaged neighborhoods. These isolated places will be connected directly to La Défense Business District, Charles de Gaulle and Orly airports, the universities on Plateau de Saclay, and the Gustave Roussy Cancer Center. You're not just connecting places, you're connecting people to opportunity. And the development is already starting. Over 100 projects around new stations are underway, with 30% affordable housing mixed with commercial and cultural spaces. Saint-Denis-Pleyel becomes a hub, Villejuif a biotech centre, Plateau de Saclay a tech cluster. And the existing metro benefits too. The infamous Hell Line 13 will get real relief as passengers will redistribute. The entire system becomes more reliable. Designed for 2 to 3 million extra riders daily, the Grand Paris Express transforms how the region moves. There's an environmental angle too. If 385,000 cars leave the streets daily, 10 million tons of CO2 could be avoided by 2050. But construction produced 4.4 million tons. Payoff takes decades. It's a long-term bet that only pays off if the system changes behavior. The Grand Paris Express isn't just tunnels and trains. It's art. Over 70 permanent works, 50 million euros dedicated, built into every major station from day one. Each station pairs one artist with one architect. Half the artists are women, 40% are international from Japan, Italy, the US, Argentina, Spain, Chile. At Orly Airport, Portuguese artist Vils created urban strata. He used drilling and blasting techniques to create portraits in concrete. 11,000 ceramic tiles layer the region's diversity right at the station entrance. At Saint-Denis-Pleyel, Prune Nourri's The Dionysian Venuses suspends 108 fertility-inspired sculptures in a futuristic hall by Kenjo Kuma. At Châtillon-Montrogue, Laurent Grasso painted a Renaissance-style sky across 2,750 metal strips hanging from the ceiling. As you walk through the station, the sky shifts and changes. These stations aren't just transit points, they're public galleries, free for 2 to 3 million passengers every day. This is transit, but it's also identity. The metro becomes the shared civic space that defines Greater Paris, not just the historic centre, not just the landmarks tourists visit, the entire region, represented in art that everyone encounters. So where does that leave us in 2026? We're in the messy middle. The rollout is going to be a slow burn. In spring 2027, we should finally see Line 15 South open, then Line 16 in mid-2027. The final pieces won't click into place until 2030 or 2031. It is a long, painful wait, but the hardest problems in infrastructure aren't technical, they're temporal. We're building for a city that hasn't fully arrived yet. By the time this entire network is operational in the 2030s, the Paris region will have been fundamentally rewired. The idea that Paris only exists inside the ring road will be dead. The Grand Paris Express is testing a bold idea. Can a second network of circular lines create multiple thriving centres? Or will it just push gentrification further out? We won't know the answer for another decade, but one thing is clear. The map of Paris has changed forever. The spokes are finally getting a rim. And for 3 million people, that train cannot arrive soon enough. What are your thoughts on this? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to Megabuild for more videos about infrastructure projects. Thanks for watching.